Scary mysteries, twisted news. Gary Ridgway's youngest victim identified, and scientists discover portal to the fifth dimension. Terrifying cases of true crime and strange events. Every week, Twisted News dives into two mysterious and scary cases currently happening in our world. This week, we'll delve into the identity of Gary Ridgway's youngest victim and the intriguing discovery of a particle that could serve as our portal to the fifth dimension. Get ready for Scary Mysteries, Twisted News. Number 1. Gary Ridgway's youngest victim identified. A man infamous for his insatiable sexual appetite and depravity, Gary Ridgway is an American serial killer convicted of almost 50 separate murders. This staggering kill count record practically made him the second most prolific killer in American crime history. Most of his victims were runaway teenage girls and women who worked in the sex industry, and his reign of terror took place in and around the state of Washington during the 1980s and 90s. In 2003, Ridgway pleaded guilty to murdering 48 women, and at that time, 4 of his victims remained unidentified. One of Ridgway's victims was an underage girl whose remains were found in an area which is now the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, or SeaTac, in southern King County, Washington. For more than 30 years, this Jane Doe's identity had remained a mystery. Then, on January 18, 2021, the King County Sheriff's Office and the DNA Doe Project announced that they might now have a name for the unknown girl. In a statement, authorities confirmed that the unidentified person was actually 14-year-old Wendy Stevens. She is now believed to be the youngest of those who perished at the hands of the so-called Green River Killer. Stevens, a native of Denver, Colorado, ran away from home in 1983. Finding out the identity of the body was tough, and if not for the help of genetic technology, it wouldn't have happened at all. DDP explained that in early 2019, one of Stevens' parents had taken a DNA test. The result was uploaded to GED Match, a popular genealogy website that allows users to upload their DNA profile and find relatives. Founded in 2010, this online service gained popularity when it was used by law enforcement to identify a suspect in the Golden State Killer case in California. With the same purpose, the relatives of the deceased submitted their DNA with the hope that through the site, they could learn the fate of their missing daughter. However, in May of 2019, the Florida-based company made some adjustments in their services in light of the new policy regarding law enforcement access to the match results. It so happened that Stevens' parents' kit was still not integrated in the database when the changes were made. And then in September of 2020, the Kings County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit and DDP uploaded Stevens' DNA into the site. Because her parents' information was still not there, a match wasn't found. Authorities decided to upload the same data to other commercial genetic testing companies, including Family Tree DNA, Ancestry, and 23andMe. Luckily, the victim's parents also had a profile on those sites, and a match consequently came through. The results were narrowed down to a certain Wendy Stevens, who was born in 1968. It is still unknown if the victim's family has been notified of this welcome development. Meanwhile, Ridgway is currently serving his multiple life sentences at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla, Washington. Having suffered a tough childhood, he committed his first offense of frustrated murder when he was 16. That time, he stabbed a 6-year-old boy for an unknown reason. Luckily, the victim survived. A very religious man, Ridgway was a walking contradiction. At one point, he would speak and preach strongly against having sex out of wedlock. Ironically, though, he constantly sought the services of prostitutes, some of whom he mercilessly killed. Aside from sex workers, the convicted felon would also target stray women, mostly teenagers like Stevens, who ran away from their homes. He would pick up his targets along the Pacific Highway South. After having sex with them, he would then murder them and dump their bodies into wooded areas around the Green River and the SeaTac Airport. As time passed, scores of bodies were found washed up naked along the riverbank. It took nearly 20 years for the Green River Killer to be caught and brought to justice. He was first apprehended in 1982 for a prostitution charge, and while he passed the polygraph test he subsequently took, authorities held on to their suspicions of the man. By 1983, the murders came to a stop, yet the police continued to search for the mysterious killer. It wasn't until 2001 that investigators finally constructed the DNA profile of the perpetrator. It was then compared to the samples from past suspects, including Ridgway's, and a match was found. On November 30th, 2001, Ridgway was arrested. 2 years later, he was put on trial where he pleaded guilty to killing 48 women. To avoid the death penalty, his camp agreed to help authorities locate the remains of his victims that had yet to be recovered. He got 48 consecutive prison sentences with no hopes of parole. Number 2. Scientists discover a portal to the fifth dimension. In physics, the fifth dimension is a micro-dimension that is present everywhere. We unknowingly interact with, but don't have full access to it. Meaning, unlike the 4 observable dimensions, this is something that we cannot see. For years, scientists have been working to find a way to get into this plane, and finally, they discovered a particle that could serve as a portal into this elusive place in our universe. To gain a better understanding of the observable dimensions, let's imagine throwing dice across the table. In those mere moments where the object is in motion, we get to see the manifestation of the 4 dimensions. The first 3 dimensions, or 3D, are the die's height, width, and depth. The fourth one is time. We see it over the progression of its movement. Simply put, it's the time it's spent to roll across the table. This demonstration is probably the easiest way to make sense out of this very complex dimensional concept. But now comes the fifth dimension, which scientists have long thought to be a place where every fundamental force known in the universe, including gravity and the electromagnetic force, coexist. Physicists argue that while it would be incredibly difficult to observe this aspect, we have been ironically living in it. The best analogy they give is swimming underwater. We are in the water, but we don't get to actually see the ripples. The same is true with 5D. We don't get to see it, but we are in it. This elusiveness proved to be a challenge for our thinkers who have been working for years to get a glimpse of it. And then came the news in 2021, which revealed that we may already have a ticket that can take us to that mysterious plane. A new study published in the European Physical Journal C proposed the existence of a mysterious particle that can act as a portal to the fifth dimension. This subatomic mass particle, which in itself has never yet been directly observed, is thought to be capable of traveling across the entire universe, including that said dimension. Scientists Javier Castellano, Matthias Neubert, and Adrian Carmona explained that as they went along with their study to find these particles, or Fermion masses, they inadvertently came up with a new scalar field on which these objects displayed an interesting, non-trivial behavior. In short, by hypothesizing the existence of these Fermion masses, they were able to come up with a model of a universe having a fifth dimension. With this new lead, the scientific community couldn't be more excited to find out where the study could lead. At the moment, the 3 scientists from Spain and Germany need to provide evidence that these fermions actually exist. Proving it could take an insurmountable amount of time and effort. The last time a major scientific breakthrough like this happened was in 1964, when scientists proposed the presence of Higgs boson. It took almost 50 years for them to finally see the theory come to life. In 2012, the Higgs boson, also known as the God particle, was finally detected at the Large Hadron Collider, a huge and specialized physics facility located in Geneva, Switzerland. The discovery of this particle provides a plethora of explanation to some of the most fundamental questions in our entire universe. So there were two of the most shocking and intriguing stories around. The world can be a crazy place, and Twisted News is sure to show you why. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We have new videos coming out every single week for you guys to check out. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you soon.